Welcome everyone to Strange Adventures. Today we're going to talk about the preview that World of Darkness have released for the new Hunter the Reckoning game, 5th edition, which has some interesting bits and bobs coming in. So I'm going to speculate, I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to ask you what you think, because that's obviously quite important. And if you want to download it for free, that's like everyone should have downloaded it by now. You can get it for free from the World of Darkness website by going to the account. Let me show you. It's here, your Paradox account, and you can download preview because this is what it looks like. And I'm gonna get this out of the way. I hate this. I hate this front page. This front cover is not a very good photograph. My overall opinions on this preview are positive. I think this is the main negative. I don't like the photo. It's not very emotive. It doesn't really link into how I imagine the fantasy of playing a hunter looks like. But it's fine. Like, look at all the other art. Look at the art that I've got behind me. It's really good. Look at the art of the character. Look at the art of the monster. It's really good. So why does the front page look this awful? Anyway, let's move on to the important part, which is the rules and the book part itself. We don't get any look into what the dice rules or any of that, but we do get an idea of what they're aiming for. And my interpretation of reading through all of these is that this book will let us play a group of kind of Scooby-Doo gang-esque hunters who are not funded by the government like some of the hunters in other World of Darkness lore, like the FBI or the Society of St. Leopold. Like, we're not powerful institutional hunters. We are here to protect a community, and we are driven to do that by our own desires, our own care for people or things or whatever it is you make your character into, I suppose. And by the look of it, they are doing that with 3 main mechanics that they have not put into detail in here for pretty obvious reasons, but it is drives and desperation that I think you can kind of get an insight into here. But we'll get onto that once we've gone through this example of one of the classes, the creeds as they call them, Inquisitive. And much like the vampire book, most of this is setting info. This is not information about how many powers an Inquisitive gets or when they get them, or like special abilities that they have. This is a page kind of like the clan bits in Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. It is just a list of suggestions for ways that a person like this would operate in this game. So it's talking about learning how to not necessarily kill monsters that are trying to hurt people. You need to learn. That is the drive that pushes the Inquisitive to hunt vampires and werewolves and changelings and all of that, because knowing is half the battle, which I'm too English to fully understand the implications of that reference. Anyway, knowing is half the battle, because, you know, if you pin down some horrible beastie and you get a sample of their blood, you will be able to better learn how to defeat other more powerful ones later. It's one that I'm really excited to see, because it kind of brings immediately to the front not only conflicts with how you will push forward, being like stereotypically not being a particularly physically powerful character, but one where you'll have to plan, you'll have to take advantage of certain benefits and weaknesses of monsters to get the thing, your objective done. And it kind of pushes conflict with the more willing to murder monsters kind of hunters to the front. So there's also like a really easy avenue into inter-party, drama and conflict there, which sounds like a really fun time to argue out with your friends. And it gives some archetypes. Like this is as I sort of expected, laid out in basically the same way Vampire 5th Edition is. And if you play Vampire 5th Edition, then you are going to be very comfortable with the style of information display, as well as the kind of information that it gives for you to build a character. So like I say, all of this is flavor. This is instructions on how to build a personality, preferred tactics, and potential drama directly into your character by creating archetypes, stereotypical ways and jobs and places where you would find this kind of character. So as opposed to giving you there's not any like Bane directly linked to any of the classes. So I suppose in a way this Inquisitive classes are and like creeds are less important to doing your thing, which I suppose brings me to the next thing, which for those who haven't kind of caught up on what's going on with Hunter, they're reimagining it. So they imbued are non-existent. There are no revelations from some sort of divine entity giving you powers. There are no super strong powers. There are edges in the, using this in like disciplines exist in Vampire, edges exist in Hunter. In this, the edges are entirely different though. They are more of what they sound like, a slight edge, a situational ability which gives you the edge in a difficult situation, that you are useful to your group and can be used by you to provide support in certain situations, like we've got the Beast Whisperer down here. So before we move on to the Beast Whisperer and talk about that, I think it would be pretty cool to talk about edges, common drives, and desperation dice fields. This is where some speculation comes in, because there's nothing in here about exactly how this works. Drives sound like kind of conviction-esque things that may give you strength in difficult situations, something that you can call upon actively as a power. So I'm expecting there to be sections in this book that are maybe mechanical, specifically for curiosity, pride, greed, and others, for other drives, things that you get when you really need that push, something that puts you above a normal human in terms of willpower and capacity when you're dealing with the unnatural, right? That seems like a really fun idea for if you've ever played the Powered by the Apocalypse games like Masks, where you have like a moment of truth, that one moment where you are meeting the challenge in front of you, right? So having something like that, I'm really looking forward to see how they do it. Desperation dice, also very interesting to see how they will do this. I'm not entirely sure what this means. Desperation dice, I imagine, I'm speculating here, will look something like Hunger Dice do for Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition, where it either replaces part of your dice pool, which I think we can probably see a little bit of here. They've got a dice set for Hunter with some like fire on it. That's pretty cool. It will probably replace part of your dice pool in the same kind of way, and the more desperate you get, the more likely you are to fumble and make reckless decisions. And what it says here is gaining information while on the hunt, such as research, breaking and entering, and interrogation. This looks to me as if it will work in a similar way to compulsions do for vampires. So if you're in a tricky situation, your desperation drives you to do the things that you really desperately need or want, like gaining information for this particular character. It's written in such a way that it makes me think you could probably customize these. Like if you're like, oh, I don't want to gain information, but I do want to gain trophies from things, I don't know, but or probably something more helpful in or detrimental in a dangerous situation. I don't know. But yeah, these seem like suggestions for what situation it will come up in and what you will end up doing that it negatively affects your group. What are they called? Not coteries, cells of hunters. My other kind of hope is that it works like, are they called stress dice from the Alien system, where you don't lose dice as you get more stressed. The more stress dice you have, the more likely things are to go bad, but you have a bigger dice pool. Like I can't remember how much it goes up to. I think it goes like up to 6 stressed. And when you have 6 extra dice, you feel like you can do stuff, and you're more likely to do stupid stuff because you have a bigger dice pool to succeed with, right? I don't know how they're going to do it, but I don't imagine they'll stray too far away from the traditional roll a bunch of d10s system. And from context in here, I imagine the character sheet will also look pretty much the same, with all of the skills, attributes, and spaces for advantages, disadvantages, flaws, and powers. And we'll get onto the cool bit, powers, Beast Whisperer, which is it on here? It is. So we got library global access, which I assume is if you're a hacker, if you're a librarian nerd, if you're like a sleuth, supernatural sleuth, we got those. But Beast Whisperer is the one they decided to show us, and it seems like it is literally a permanent thing that you don't have to pay for, but you do have to roll for. So you're not spending resources on this unless you're like leveling it up with perks, which are all, normally it'd be like 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dot, 5 dot. Doesn't look like that's the case in this game. So we can safely assume that you get the base Beast Whisperer, you have like a cool dog pet, or maybe a parrot if you're a pirate, or a horse if you're a horse girl, or if you're a brony, maybe. You can get a beast to help with a... Does it have like a key action? Yeah, it has a key special action pool. The animal is considered... Like, how good is it? They obey simple commands. Hunter must choose one type of animal, which key action pools it possesses. Doesn't say how big the action pools are, but I'm assuming they'll have a bunch of animals somewhere in the book. It does in the core vampire book. But anyway, telling it to do stuff is not always easy, but it is still a really handy tool, like for a dog for sniffing out stuff, blood, whatever, who knows. I kind of like this. In the original Hunter, I played a little bit of it, and it seemed like you had basically magical powers to hurt supernatural things, to make them regret things they did. I played a lot with the Mercy? Edge? I can't remember most of them at this point, but it felt like magical powers, and what I am hoping for from this book is, and what this power seems to imply, is that you are not strong. And the thing that I could never really get to work in Vampire is because of the magical blood powers and the strength, and obviously the player will to do horrible things as a vampire. Obviously you could never do certain kinds of horror, you couldn't make the player feel particularly weak all the time, because they weren't. They could tell people what to do with their voice and they would do it. See, it's but this is an actual kind of, supernatural horror. You get stuck in the woods, something bad happens, kind of horror experience that they seem to be laying out here. So I'm looking forward to seeing what all the powers do and how people will end up, and what kind of menagerie of wonderful beasts people will have on their characters. Like, there's some really great kind of folk horror that you can build with this, that you just, it's not as easy in Vampire, because it relies on the player having limited options, I suppose. I don't know, that's probably something for an entirely different video. But having a pet with you is, can lead to a lot of really cool situations and a lot of really wonderful roleplay. So I'm looking forward to it. Having an incorruptible pet, very powerful, especially when things will want to turn your dog against you, or having different things available to you, being able to, this all seems like pretty logical expansions to the powers as well. I guess you choose one at a time. We'll see how XP works as well. I'm fascinated to see when this book gets released. And last, but by no means least, is Celestina, a very creepy monster that kind of sings and stands in the middle of the street pretending to be a kind of lost woman, drawing people in and then tearing their limbs off. Yeah, horror story. And what is wonderful about this, it centers this monster as not a kind of archetype of, these are all the Tzimitzi, these are all the vampires, these are all the werewolves, these are all the changelings, these are all the Bigfoots. It doesn't make generalizations about what a monster that it is describing is. It creates a story. This is a character that lives in Mexico City, and hunts tourists, and is connected to a location where it has a secret, and it's got a layer, and it's got it's intertwined into the place it haunts, right? It is a problem for that community. Therefore, the hunters that you will be playing will want to fight and destroy this thing to save people from getting their heads ripped off and their limbs and their organs harvested. And, what other secrets might it be hiding? This is a very exciting way of doing it, because if you really need it, you can just transplant this into your campaign and, I don't know anything about Mexico. I do know stuff about London. So, oops, it's in London now, right? It makes the monsters more personal. It's not saying there is an entire species of monster with many arms called La Celestina. No, this is a monster. Your hunters probably won't be able to take down all vampires, even though Celestina is described as using some of the vampire rules. It doesn't mention what clan she is, but it mentions how she hunts. It's not mentioned exactly what power she uses to attach all of these limbs to her, but it does tell you why she wants them. That is really nice to see. It decouples it from the very expansive lore of World of Darkness, which I guess you could still pull from, but it makes it personal. It narrows it down to one monster that you will be able to deal with by doing research, by searching the history of the place, by accidentally encountering it in a dark alley, right? All of these kind of folk story monsters, I can't wait to see. That's kind of what I want to know. I've got a bunch of monsters I would really love to bring to life with this book from English folklore, like Black Shuck and the various fairies from Irish folklore and all of those having a fiddle that makes people dance until they bleed, that kind of thing. I would really like to know what folklore, or just monsters from things that you love, you would love to bring to life. Like, I don't know, do you want to try and rip something out of Norse mythology and make it real? I hope there is something to do that with in this book. But if there isn't, you could use Hunter the Vigil instead. Just saying. There's 2nd edition of that out, and it's literally got a monster builder section to it. But having like the bloody mannequin, super creepy, great story. Cannot wait to either use this or put it directly into a story I have. All of this stuff is super useful, and I am genuinely excited to see what the final book looks like. It's just a fucking shame. But oh my, it's so pretty. We'll stick here for the moment. I really want to know what the mechanics are, how it will put pressure on the players and the GM and give them things to like push their stories forward with. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll talk with you in the comments about this. And before we go, here are my wonderful Patreon patrons. Thank you for your support. But until next time, goodbye.